Outside the lines, we're back. How we doing? I'm done
Doing
announcing what
great.
episode it is. I'm just gonna roll the dice here and say screw it. We're going for it now.
Yeah,
We just
couldn't
have
remember the
topics.
number. There was a peak week at like I think it was 19. I think it was like 19 you remembered and then everyone was happy with it and then it's just too much. Honestly, it's too much.
It's a lot of work on my end. I can't remember things. I'm the talent. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, I'm just the permanent guest.
So we got the permanent guest, not the co-host. Permanent guest with a difference. For liability reasons. That's
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
honestly, it's need to separate me from this. It's kind of like when your buddy couch surfs and then he's like, "Yeah, I'm looking for I'll get an apartment," and then he just never does. And I'm just like couch surfing permanently on your podcast.
Exactly. That's just the way it's got to be for now.
Yep, I got you.
So, if you guys, again, we're going to be every episode we've been talking about has to do with Elon and whatever drama's going on there. We've got the sale going final. Here in LA, rent moratoriums being extended. Uh, the crazy, stupid shit show that is CNN Plus. Mike Tyson absolutely beating the crap out of someone on a plane. F1 coming back to the US in Miami, baby. Look it up, live after that one. You know what I'm saying? China allegedly going back with lockdowns. Masks on flights are gone, and another healthy tip at the end about making friends with people who are a little out of your league. What do you say? Let's jump in.
Let's get it.
Where are we diving into? We'll start with Twitter. More recently, did that play out as fast as you thought it was, or did you think it was going to be more of like a pissing match on Twitter, no pun intended, for a few more months?
Yeah, honestly, I was sort of surprised, but I think I was surprised because it didn't really seem like something that normally was going to happen. Um, like for example, on in talking on a group chat podcast about normally how long these MA processes go, years, 2 years, even with smaller, hundreds of millions of dollar deals. Obviously, it's large, but small on this scale, by orders of magnitude. Uh, we all know that Elon from previous sales of stock moves quickly with large moves, but this obviously had to do with other people. And I think that the original kickback that came from everyone was kind of like, not that I didn't believe that Elon could do it, but it was weird seeing that there was so much kickback to it. And I was like, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, probably not going to happen because all these people don't want it to happen. And I'm not going to like name names of people. Obviously, they just show themselves on Twitter itself, but it was kind of one of those things where I was like, oh, probably not going to happen. Would be really cool, in my opinion. But when he did it, I was like, sick. Like, let's get after it, man.
I
Like,
was
what are you
gonna
going to
say,
do?
I don't know who you were talking with about it, or if you heard anything else from like working with older people, things like that. Was there any kind of reaction on both sides of the aisle, I guess, so to speak, of that political spectrum of like, yeah, we should definitely keep this as like a free speech platform, or like this is a private company that can do what they want. Fuck having him buy it. What was the sentiment in your personal life? Because I know for me and mine, it was very different. It was um, both sides of the political scales. Everyone was like, you know what, screw it. Like this guy is doing good in the world right now. Why not let him fucking have this thing too? It's not that big of a deal. And especially if he wants everything to be free speech, fucking let people have it.
Yeah, I think if I'm using this word correctly, there was like bipartisanship of thinking that it would be good for everybody.
There you go.
Yeah, like
Snaps to that one, dude.
whipping that out here. We invest time here on this podcast to give you the best content, and that includes me reading the light. the library, not the dictionary, the library, the whole thing.
Oh
Bringing
wait,
it.
I mean earlier I had my spat with categorically, thinking that wasn't a word. So it's not just little Tucker up there. It's myself
Yeah,
as well.
that was pretty wild. And for to clarify, I do dictionary podcasts. Reading is not my strong suit. So getting back on topic,
Yes,
bipartisan.
back to bipartisanship. Go for it.
Yeah, like bipartisanship when it came to everyone thinking, hey, you know what? This seems to benefit us at the end of the day. The everyday person makes a lot of their decisions. Like you said, these older people, they're either, oh, I get all my information from Facebook, or hey, I make my own decisions based on the party itself and, who I like based on what I see on television kind of thing. So I think everyone was kind of open with it. The only time I saw any kickback was there is definitely a polarizing in the engineering community, just because I feel like there we're engineers, so there's people who respect the work that he does and are thinking from an engineering standpoint, this is a CEO like we've never seen get involved in, specifically in Tesla and SpaceX, get involved in the engineering work and be down there on the deck plates, so to speak, with his engineers. And so there's people who really like him. And then on the opposite side, people who have heard from their friends who work at these companies that, it is kind of a dog eat dog world. They're the most competitive company, or, two of the best companies, in my opinion, in the world, besides Apple and Amazon or whatever. But it's obviously extremely competitive, and not to the point where it's like, Lehman Brothers, like people just backstabbing each other, but also that the work environment is a little, I wouldn't say hostile, but it is extremely competitive and not a lot of people are used to that. And so they mistake that for Elon maybe being an asshole. And I still, every time that argument gets brought up, I bring it back to that he was on podcast. I don't know who he's on the podcast with, but he was sitting there and he's like, yeah, so I'm this guy who started this space company and also owns the most like advanced car company in the world. And I also do this, 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 and this. And people think I'm just going to be like this regular cool ass guy. Like, obviously not.
He has the self awareness to like understand he's just a fucking weirdo. He's out there, and not even just a weirdo. Like he's just a different kind of person, and that takes a lot to understand that.
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of the day, I think the decision, when it looked at free speech and what he was doing from a political standpoint, everyone was pretty on board. It got a little bit more into the weeds when people personally don't know him, but don't really like him, so they choose to go against his decision.
Yeah. Do you think this? I guess I'll tie this in. It wasn't on our sheet or agenda today. Do you think this kills Trump's social media network now that he was trying to put up?
All due respect to our 45th president, but I don't think it was going to get off the ground anyways.
Yeah.
Insert here, you don't have the facilities for that, big man. uh
That's the next thing we will talk about on the podcast. We're definitely going to be getting a soundboard for this kind of shit.
there you go. I got things in my head and I usually butcher them when they come out. So but yeah, I think that's one of those things that the interesting thing to see will be if he comes back on Twitter and increases his relevance again, because I think, as you've seen it discussed as well, and we'll dip in this political thing just very quickly, but his
I mean, we're talking about China in a little bit, so we might get
yeah,
back into it.
yeah, I guess we're going full bore today, but his relevance has seemed to have dropped because is obviously not on any of these social media platforms, so it's not being discussed as much. But because of that, I feel like the concentration of people who have like a high approval rating of him um, has gotten more uh, has gotten higher in the way that he has a lot of support, and when he recommends or vets, I think it's vetted candidates, they get a immediate boosts in polls and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I think that obviously there he still has a big following, but the overall relevance of people talking about him every day is a lot lower. So it'll be interesting to see where that engagement comes back to if he does come back on if he does come back on Twitter, because obviously Facebook is still Instagram and Facebook. So, but his favorite was Twitter in the first place. So it should be
100%.
interesting.
And like you said, I don't want to say social media made him, but it's one of those things where it people were always talking about what he was saying on those platforms, and this segues us like perfectly into the next topic we're going to be talking about, like CNN. Like during Trump's campaign and even presidency, like he was the topic of CNN for every single thing that aired, and that's what caused their ratings to go so high. So we'll see what happens when Twitter comes back. We might be hearing all about 45 again.
Yeah, it should be interesting, but I don't think anybody's going to be using CNN Plus to see that
Yeah,
because
considering they get canceled here in exactly 2 days. So, uh, on the time of us recording, we're April 28th, and that service cancels on the 30th of April. So, the nicknamed the $300 million abomination experiment has just now failed. Tons of Speaking of going back to Twitter, tons of writers were going out bashing Twitter, bashing CNN Plus, going back and forth saying how much of a stupid idea it was, and um, now people are going back and forth fighting, saying, "Oh, these writers lost their jobs" and all this stuff, and it was just a failed experiment altogether.
yeah, I think the main thing to take away from this experience with the CNN Plus thing is that on May 1st of 2022, we at the Outside the Lines podcast will have more subscribers than CNN Plus. Not a huge feat.
100%. That is
Yeah,
factual.
infinity times, because anything times zero is also zero.
So shout out to our subscribers and listeners.
Yeah,
Shout out
thank
to
you
you
guys.
guys.
You bringing us above. I don't know when we're gonna get this like $300 million valuation, but it's coming soon, guys, and it's all because of you.
But exactly, the reason it failed, in my opinion, CNN was already, and just legacy news outlets are just like going down the shitter to begin with. So no one wants to listen to bad news all the time, and then especially when you have to pay for more bad news, no one wants that.
Yeah, it's not appealing to. I think people have gotten to the point where they have realized that at first those types of things they bring eyes. Those types of things being bad news and horrible things happening, and this. I would go as far to say sometimes some news outlets uh, do a little fear mongering. It brings a lot of eyes to begin with, but I think over the period of since COVID, it people have realized that that's not really what they want to see because they've been saturated by it. Everything's been saturated with this bad news and it's consistently negative. And I think at first people are like building into it, but now everyone's realized I don't need that. I don't want to watch that every day. So, like you said, no one wants to pay for bad news. Like they
I don't
can
want that negativity in my life, bro.
they get that shit for free everywhere, all day, every day, if they look for it. So
Yeah, exactly. And especially going back to like the whole Twitter position, like wherever you're getting your news from is like, God, please God, don't get your news from Twitter. Um, at least vet these sources. But people who are sitting in echo chambers on Twitter, going back and forth, getting like bad energy all day. Whatever social media app you open up is going to be bad energy unless you curate it yourself. Like There's just too much negative energy going around right now.
Yeah, and obviously there's discussion on what gets quote shadow banned and what gets suppressed on Twitter, but also it's something positive because if you're going absolute free speech, these people can build their own echo chambers. If that's something that they want to do, they can do that. And I think that's the point of it all is no one's gonna block you from echo chambering with Donald Trump about whatever it may be because now you can do whatever you want. And if you don't like what the other side's doing, that's the point of it. So
Yeah, I mean, by no means you should not get in your Fox News and CNN camps and sit and hate each other, but you can if you want to now, apparently. Because now
do
that CNN Plus is gone, you're not gonna have anywhere to go to pay for your hate content.
yes. Diversification, guys. That's with the portfolio, this is not financial advice, as well as your news.
Oh man, sticking with bad news. Well, not bad news for us. Bad news for the guy that thought it was a good idea to annoy Mike Tyson and verbally abuse him on a flight. Like, I don't know if you've seen the video. Uh, Basically, the world is saying that Mike Tyson was in the right for just beating the crap out of this guy on a flight. So, have you seen the story? Have you seen the video or anything like that? Yeah,
Yeah.
man, it's a tough look for the guy. He was, I think he was kind of having it out with him, talking with him, shooting the shit, and then eventually he just decided to be that annoying drunk fan, and then started chirping him, and then got his ass beat.
Yeah, I think it's just another one of those situations. And I think this phrase has been overused a thousand times over, but it's the play stupid games, win stupid prizes thing. You know, if you put it on a board, wrote it down and said, hey, I'll pay you, $1,000 to sit behind Mike Tyson and chirp him until he beats the shit out of you. No one's taking that. That's like just not a good idea, man.
I mean, not for 1,000. I mean, we can up the ante, and I might try it, but 1,000 is a
Yeah.
little cheap for my
Yeah.
blood.
Honestly, that's below my line, man. That's below my line.
Shout out all in pod. Love you guys.
Yeah. So I just think that I agree with everyone. Everyone's human and you can't really, especially Mike Tyson, honestly, the man bit another man's ear off. And there's been a discussion that by him and himself that is a different person. But the point at the end of the day is just celebrities are people too. They definitely live a completely different life. But I only mean people too in the way that like everyone's gonna have their point at which they snap. Don't try that on a person who just happened to be one of the greatest boxers of all time.
Exactly. But I mean, now that we're on that topic, like, what's the number that you take in your mind that you're like, you know what, I'd get the shit kicked out of me for to talk shit to Mike Tyson.
Honestly, probably in my case, I would say, you got 500 G's worth of medical bills from like brain damage and MRIs and shit like that. So I'd probably say like, 500 G's and like plus 1,000.
Plus the 1,000.
Nah, I'd say a million. I'd have to say a million because, like, honestly, that's
'Cause, I
good.
mean,
That's a rough time. And you
yeah,
look like if you're getting video, that's okay. That would add another million for me. It's like everyone looking at me like you just got the shit beaten out of you and you hurt physically, but then everyone is like, I hate you, blah, blah, blah. You're getting death threats. It's like, dude, I almost died on the plane, man. Like,
I was gonna say it's a different story if you're like in a ring with Mike Tyson versus
yeah,
like just being an asshole to him and getting the shit kicked out of you on a plane. That's totally
yeah.
different.
I'd take, if we are in a ring, I take 10 G's and his tiger all day. Don't have a place to put the tiger, but I'd take the tiger.
Well, because I mean, at least if you're in the ring, you get like some bragging rights, being like, "Yo, like I boxed Mike Tyson," you know.
Yeah.
Here's what it is. I'm
Yeah.
that guy.
Yeah. We boxed and he put me in a body bag, but
Yeah.
you know, I made it about 5 seconds, and the time it took for him to walk close enough to me to get within reach, I made that time. So
Did we confirm what airline that was? Because that's shit that happens on a Spirit flight.
I know,
That's
dude. I was like, yeah, that's some frontier ass shit. What's going on here? Yeah, why is I don't know Mike's fight. Mike, me and him are close. I don't know his
tight. We're
financial
boys, you know.
super tight, bro. I don't know his financial situation. Obviously, he was sitting in first, but I don't know. He's a pretty big star, and he's an ex boxer. Like those guys get paid, and why is he flying commercial? Like, not that I'm not flying Delta Comfort Plus, but
Go there, guy.
yeah, you know what I'm saying.
But yeah, I mean, that can lead us into our next thing of talking about flights and what's happening next weekend. F1 comes back to the states again. This time in Miami. What a sad we can't be here or be there for that. I mean, shout out our boy Jermaine, um, trying to get us all to go to Miami like it's a quick trip. But what are we
Yeah.
thinking? F1
Oh,
back in the states. I'm pumped about that. But what do you think of the track layout? What do we? Good weekend. Definitely good for
yeah.
business.
Great for business. Honestly, all about it. But yo, that shit is wildly expensive. I cannot believe the audacity that they're putting out there.
The
Honestly,
audacity to
yeah,
general admission, two
yeah,
grand,
yeah.
floor price of those things.
I'm just saying, I better be face to face with Valtteri. Like, that's a lot of money, man. I'm just saying, especially for general admission. I don't know who of our listeners has been to a race, an actual like F1 race or any other auto racing. You sit on one part of the track if you're sitting in general admission and you see the cars, you see less than 10 seconds of a car going
Yep.
around a corner, and you see that same corner every single time. And with F1, they're moving even faster. So if you like, oh yeah, like talking to your boy because you're just catching up. Oh, there goes Lewis. There goes Valtteri. Well, there goes Valtteri, and there goes a couple. There goes Pierre, and then there goes Lewis. At this point,
Shout out the boy.
yeah, come on, like reel it back. Just making it realistic for 2022. But yeah, it's a lot. But anyone who has the money for that, wonderful experience, and I'm really glad that I don't know who's making these moves in the FIA. I believe that would be the body that would be adding all these races, but I think it's a huge move for bringing it here because obviously, as you've seen at Circuit of the Americas, and is it in Austin? Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
yeah, in Austin, you're seeing. I think it was like five. No, there's a 250% increase in attendance at this physical attendance at the track itself year over year from I believe it was 2020 to 2021 or something 2019.
2019 to 2021.
Yeah,
So, I mean, there wasn't a race there in 2020, just because of like obviously COVID stuff. But
yeah,
yeah, the viewing experience is like way different with the amount of people that are there. So, if you have the money, great for you. But if you were gonna sit like general admission, it's you're gonna be heard like cattle in there. Just a heads up for people.
yeah,
The
and
Miami race is a bit different though. There's no standing room for this. That's why prices are so expensive for the seats. So get your seats while they're hot because that's you're not going anywhere else.
yeah, exactly, and that just leads into I think the discussion quickly about them bringing it to Vegas as well and making this sport a lot bigger because I feel we can go back to episode we didn't know at the time either, but we were talking about NASCAR ratings and how those were much higher and how they compared to the NBA All-Star game very high. And that sport is is growing too. But bringing Formula One here, which is, I don't think there needs to be an argument, but arguably the greatest or most competitive auto racing in the world,
Yeah, it
the
is
highest level of auto racing.
100%. It is the pinnacle of motorsport.
Exactly. So bringing that here and making it more involved here, and obviously, like, they're taking advantage of, Miami and Vegas. Like, those are like the two spots. Obviously they're taking advantage of that. But if they make great tracks, I'm interested to see what they end up doing with the Vegas track, because the current layout is a little plain.
Yeah.
It, um, but I'm just glad that they're bringing it here and that it'll become much bigger, because I honestly think it's a wonderful sport. The first, for anyone who hasn't done it or who has watched NASCAR and hasn't watched Formula One, it's wonderful because NASCAR is, I've been to a NASCAR race, like, loved NASCAR when I was younger. All it is turning left in an oval, except for one other track. And it's for like 2.5 hours. Formula One can be for 2 hours or something like that, but it's quick. It's like, we got 50 laps and
Yeah.
we're bussing it out. And that's what we're doing. I'm not sitting watching a race for 4 hours. You watch people go in a circle. So it's wonderful experience. I think it's done correctly, and it's awesome. If you haven't watched, if skipping to content recommendations, if you haven't watched the Netflix on it, the Netflix series on it, watch that and you'll immediately be into it, because that was really well done. And yeah, I just think it's a great thing. So
Yeah, like you said, as far as content goes, it does a great job of portraying the sport and like sucking people in. Um, I mean, off to the whether all those storylines are true or not. That's a bit different. But that's coming from insider information. Um, but yeah, overall, I think it's great for the sport. Like you said, one of the things that triggers me when hearing about Formula One is when people just call it European NASCAR.
wow,
It makes me want
that
to
is,
throw my like fist through a wall. It is so infuriating to hear that.
yeah, that's a little crude description of it.
It is so like we talked about. It's the pinnacle of motorsport. It is fast cars. I don't want to say a
Cargo fast.
yes, very very fast cars. It's definitely the different crowd you're going to get at a NASCAR event compared to a Formula One event. Um, but you will understand that when you come with me this year. So
Yeah,
look forward to that. It's going
yeah,
to be interesting.
I
Not
am.
saying we're upper class people, but I don't want to hang out with the peasants and can't hang out with the hillbillies.
I'll leave that to you.
I'm getting canceled this episode. I don't care anymore, man. I'm doing it.
I'm
I get
just saying,
passionate
like,
about Formula One, man.
yeah, I dig it. I think that, that is true malarkey there, calling it NASCAR or European NASCAR. That's not cool.
The listeners know I'm one of the people when it comes to like tailgating and drinking, like during football season. You know where I'm at, but when you're talking about Formula One, that's when I'm a little. It's below my line.
Yeah,
NASCAR is, it is
it's
what it
below my line.
is.
Yeah.
Staying on that topic, jumping into recent activities, talking about Formula One stars and celebrities, things like that, how to not be a weirdo and not be friends with them.
Wait for this mad flex here. So recently, our podcast host, Mr. Emmett Ross, due to his friendship with Paul Ripke, has met
Shout out
in,
Paul, man.
yeah, shout out Paul. He's got great content. If you haven't seen all of his stuff, what is
Yeah,
it?
we
What
are
is it? Paul
Paris.
Ripke. Oh, we are Prairie too.
We are
Yeah.
Paris clothing. New drop coming up on the 30th. So head to weareparis.com, snag some of that stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah, wonderful stuff. Great guy. I actually haven't met him yet. Only talked to him like third person and on peripherals, but been following for a while. wonderful dude. Anyways, through him, this guy has met Valtteri Bottas, Valtteri, Mr. Is he 77 for the Alfa Romeo team?
Yeah, he's still wearing rocking 7-7. So I don't know, man. Yeah, this is another one of those flex situations where you don't really think it's a flex, and then you talk to about people, and you're like, damn, that's a flex.
That's a mad flex.
Yeah, 2019 when I was at Formula One, got the pleasure of meeting him for the first time, and then proceeded to get hammered with his dad over multiple bottles of wine at the Formula One track. So that's a little bit different in drinking at Formula One events. You're having wine and cocktails, and at
Shots again.
NASCAR,
Let's go.
and then at NASCAR, you're getting some
Silver
Coors
bullets,
Light
dude.
and some moonshine. No, but overall, it's one of those things where great dude. Formula One drivers are, like you said, they're athletes completely, and meeting him was one of those things where you're like, damn, this is like a real life Formula One driver I'm like hanging out with and talking to.
Yeah.
So when he came back, since they are racing in Miami next week, he stopped, and his girlfriend, Tiffany Cromwell, I think it is, another big flex. Like, she's multiple Tour de France women's winner, like Olympic bronze medalist for the Australian national team for cycling. Like, this decorated people. So hanging out with them was wild. But he's just a normal dude.
Yeah. Seems like a really humble
Cool guy.
guy.
Tossed a bunch of them back with him yesterday. He's a good ass dude.
Yeah. Seems like a really cool guy based on a story I got from your brother that he called you and Paul had answered his phone, handed it to Valtteri, and Valtteri says, "Oh, where do you know me from?" Well, I was friends with my mom was friends with your mom way back, and I kind of knew. No, we watch you on the TV, man. You're a great racer. So
Like, yeah,
really, really humble guy.
it's one of those dudes. Like, he took a few pictures with some people yesterday that had showed up out of the blue, and he was just like as cool as ever can be, man. Like, he's just a cool dude to be around.
Relax too. And if you ever got any free time, go look up. He's got like some crazy facts that he knows. So go check that out online. Really like, yeah, cool guy.
That takes you also to the drive to survive kind of situations and rivalries they're trying to talk about, like getting the inside information and hearing a lot about this, like being around the team. Another humble flex, meeting Lewis at the last F1 race I was at. Him and Valtteri are like best of friends, man. They're still really cool. They used to fly together almost every race. So, and they're trying to make it seem on Netflix that they hate each other. So don't believe everything you see on there.
Yeah, that's a real bummer because all I've seen as of late on across all social media platforms is all these videos of like Lewis coming up to him after the race and them waving at each other in the cars. I think that's really cool because I'm sure with that is it's a very special dynamic with Formula One that isn't really exactly the same in other auto racing sports like NASCAR. Is that you have that 1-2, and that 1-2 is pretty clear. And as we've seen in the past with that Nico,
Yeah, Nico Rosberg. Yeah,
Rosberg and Lewis
fuck that
having,
guy.
yeah, having a thick ass rivalry, being the 1-2 when both drivers are highly skilled, and it's amazing to see because as you can see, Valtteri's a very like an elite driver, and he's on Mercedes team with Lewis, and he played that position very well to where he's driving outstanding, and then understood when he needed to play for the team he would, but also took those windows where, and the video I'm talking about,
Yeah,
took those windows,
Australia, baby.
yeah, where he was like, I'm getting my bag.
But yeah, again, it allowed him, like I said, when you're raced with a multi-world champion, and now that he left the team, he is getting paid the absolute fucking bag with Alfa Romeo, and he's the number one driver. So putting in the work and the time definitely definitely paid off for him. He's not
Yes.
hurting.
And yeah,
We'll say that
no,
much.
definitely not. And what a fucking W for Alfa Romeo. Like bringing them into actual contention with a driver who more than likely can win a lot of races.
Yeah. So once that car gets up there, he is going to be very, very close to, if not on the podium, multiple times
Yep.
this year.
Yep.
So I'm excited for that and looking forward to it. But so talking about going to F1 next weekend for Miami, no more masks on flights here in the US with domestic flights. Like, what's good? We're back this summer, baby. Come
We're
on.
back.
Come
Bring it
on.
back. We're back.
So that all happens in the wake of lockdowns in China again. I don't know if you've been seeing anything on social media, what's been going on there. Like people, this is a big one. I know they talked about it on group chat too, but I was starting to get hit with those videos on TikTok of people trying to use delivery apps and get their food ordered at 6 in the morning or before everything closes down.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Obviously, they're exerting control, their power and exercising that. It's really sad to see that, especially when it doesn't, regardless of your viewpoint on COVID, they are severely affecting the lives of those people. And hopefully this doesn't get taken down by some Chinese hackers or something like that. But I really disagree with how they're going about that because while the rest of the world moves forward, they take the active choice without the support of their constituents. They're not even constituents; they're just
Yeah, I was gonna say.
citizens. Uh, and to take a step back and affect those people's lives. So, um, support goes to obviously a bunch of people in many different places, including places like Ukraine and stuff like that. But support goes to them because like I don't know how we would do that in this country. I don't
Yeah, no,
understand.
man. Like, I mean, the entirety of 2020 was spent in lockdown, even parts of 2021. So like, I can't imagine going into 2023 or 2022, sorry, and having like so many lockdowns still in place. Like that would be absurd as a person. Not even just like, oh my gosh, like we're American, we have to insert like freedoms and all that stuff. Like even just as a normal person in any other country, they were looking at what's happening in China, being like, what the fuck is going on over there?
Yeah, I think aside from the length of time that these people have been in lockdown, it's more of seeing everything outside of we have done the research, looked at all the data and said and concluded, hey, this isn't something that's going to like obliterate us and everyone can make their own decision on like how to protect themselves or how much it will affect them. And then all that information's out there and then they choose to go the all out route and just bring it to zero, which doesn't seem possible. I don't know, probable,
Plausible? Is that the word?
plausible. One of those three, it
Yeah.
does not seem like they can get to zero
We're not
because
big library people, like we said
yeah,
earlier. Library, dictionary, it's the same thing to us.
library words. Use
But
big
no, like
words
you
here.
said, I don't know what is. I can't imagine living there just because of like the amount of freedom that we have with our internet. Like they don't have that in China, so I'm not sure what they're seeing or what kind of attitude they're having about COVID and whatnot. So it seems like everything's directed from the top, and they kind of just have to listen to what they're saying.
Yeah. And the most important tangent on this topic is the fact that they brought oh, I don't even know, like, does China like have earnings calls? I don't know maybe it's
Technically,
GD.
yes, they do,
Yeah.
because
G
someone from the I don't know if anyone else knows that, but someone from the CCP sits on every single company that's public over there.
yeah. Yeah. So
Which
but the point is, with all of these massive lockdowns to the point where people are not doing their jobs, obviously they're stuck at home, and they grew, I want to say 4% or something like that.
oh my gosh, this was the fucking.
What?
This is the story you're talking about. Oh my goodness, yes. That the ZZ Ping or whatever decided to throw a dart at a wall and land at a bunch of numbers. He's like, you know what? Our economy is going to grow 4.8% this year. That's the number we're
Yeah.
going to go with.
We were shooting for 3.5, but guess what? We're going to round it up a little. Like,
Which
what?
I don't know.
Come
This
on.
we could get into our discussion about what's happening with our markets and what's going on with that. I don't know, like what's going on with it. How are they growing when they're constantly shut down with COVID?
That doesn't make any sense at all. No sense.
I was like, we're talked about like mask mandates going off, things like that. With summer coming right around the corner, F1 in Miami, like economy essentially should be pumping and going back to normal, but no one has money because of inflation right now. Like I
Yeah.
don't know who can afford these flights going anywhere right now. It costs I don't know, even just to get to you probably in Seattle from LA is got to
Well,
be like 500 round trip at this point.
driving the LAX is going to cost you 200.
Yeah, with the fucking gas prices. Yeah, man. Who can afford that?
Liquid gold, baby.
We need to get like a Patreon in here and just have people donate to us. That's the way to do
Yeah.
it now. Talk about
Uh,
that.
yeah. Okay. Monetization. I dig it.
Someone's got to do it around here. Hearing
Yeah.
about these OnlyFans chicks making so much money. We can do that.
Yeah.
Hit us up.
Just tapping on that bad baby chick, 54 million in a year. That hurts. That hurts a little bit.
Yeah, that's tough, man. Who's paying for that though? I know some people are paying for Kathy Woods though. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, bro, take that out. You're killing me with that.
Oh man. All right, guys. Well, had a phenomenal chat with our resident couch surfing guest here, Tucker DeCamp. What are we leaving everyone with here? Content from your end was Drive to Survive. Are we still holding true to that, or what are we thinking?
Yeah, and if you're gonna watch that, watch the race, Miami next weekend. I think it was. Oh yeah, this is like the first time I'm watching F1 race, and it wasn't like 5 in the morning,
Yeah, bro, it's gonna be like I don't
noon.
know if it's gonna be a night race, but it should be in the middle of the day though for this
Yeah,
one.
it's
It's gonna be nice
it's
out though for us Americans.
yeah, noon Pacific time on Sunday.
Yeah. Shout out our 10% of Europeans. Shout out you guys, but
Yeah.
90% of us here in the States will be awake at a good hour.
Yeah.
Content recommendations on my end. Um, the Dropout is way better than Super Pumped, and I'm finally just getting to the Dropout, and it's even after episode one, leaps and bounds better than Super Pumped. And I don't mean to be that guy that's shitting on Super Pumped, but here I am.
Well, just to give like a realistic scale for the listeners, how does it compare to We Crashed? Sorry, blanked out
See, I
there.
still have not watched We Crashed yet. I need to get on that.
Really? Okay. Why
I
don't you
know.
watch both of those content, double content recommendation? Watch both We Crash and Dropout, and give us a little comparison comments, or I don't even know. I don't even. I'm the couch surfer. I don't do all the work. So wherever you put comments, put some comments down. Let us know.
I was gonna say, yeah, hit us up, YouTube, all over social. Let us know. But anything else from you? Final checkouts, thoughts?
Nah, glad to be here. I'll show up on the couch next week.
All right, man. Well, this has been Outside the Lines episode. I don't know. So I'll see you guys later.